Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being truly well-informed. Today, we're embarking on a fascinating deep dive into a nation that consistently captures global attention, the United States of America. We've taken a deep dive into a comprehensive encyclopedia entry, and our mission is to pull out the essential, sometimes surprising insights that, go beyond the headlines.
That's right. Our goal isn't just to give you an overview. It's really to cut through all the noise, give you a clear, structured understanding of the U.S. We'll connect the dots, from its earliest origins and vast geography to its powerful economy, its unique culture, and that undeniable global influence. We're focusing on what truly matters and why it's relevant to your understanding of the world.
And to kick things off, let's start with something really fundamental but, well, often overlooked, the country's name itself. It actually has a surprising backstory.
It's easy to take names for granted, but what's fascinating here is how deliberate and how early the phrase United States of America actually appeared. The earliest documented use we found, January 2, 1776.
Wow, 1776. So before the Declaration of Independence was even adopted, that's much earlier than I would have thought.
Exactly. It was in a letter from Stephen Moylan, an aide to George Washington. He was trying to secure aid for the Revolutionary War from Spain.
Seeking aid from Spain.
Yeah.
Okay. Where else did it pop up early on?
Well, it showed up publicly in the Williamsburg, Virginia Gazette on April 6th, 1776. An anonymous essay.
Anonymous. Okay.
And yes, Thomas Jefferson did include it in a rough draft of the Declaration of Independence on or after June 11th, 1776. That really solidified its presence just before the official adoption. It was truly foundational.
And the name America itself, where does that come from? Is that separate?
Good question. Yeah, it is. The name America actually comes from Amerigo Vespucci, the Italian explorer. It was first used as a place name by German cartographers way back in 1507.
Ah, okay.
So you have this older European naming convention kind of merging with the new aspirational phrase United States.
Makes sense.
And of course, colloquially, people often shorten it. U.S. or USA or even the States or stateside if you're talking about from abroad.
Right, right. And speaking of identity, the U.S. also has some really powerful national symbols. I'm thinking of things like "In God We Trust." That's the official motto now, right?
It is, yeah.
And the traditional "E pluribus unum," out of many, one, plus the Star-Spangled Banner as the national anthem, and the bald eagle. That eagle's got a pretty recent update, hasn't it?
It does. The bald eagle became the national emblem way back in 1782.
Okay.
But it was only officially declared the national bird just this year, in 2024.
Huh. Interesting distinction.
It is. And these symbols, along with the names, they played a really crucial role in how the United States is perceived, both internally by its citizens and, externally by the rest of the world. They weren't just decorative, they were deliberate choices. They reflected the aspirations and values of this nascent nation trying to define itself.
That's a powerful foundation, and it leads us naturally, I think, to understanding the sheer scale of the nation built upon it. Now, let's maybe explore the narrative of how this nation truly came to be.
Okay, so if we trace the story right back, the land now known as the U.S. has a history stretching over 12,000 years. It begins with the Paleo-Indians.
Right.
They migrated from North Asia and developed these incredibly sophisticated cultures across the continent. Think like Clovis, Mississippian, Algonquian, Hohokam, the ancestral Puebloans.
So complex societies were here long before Europeans.
Absolutely. It's truly remarkable to think about the vibrant societies that existed. And the population estimates before European arrival, they ranged widely, from maybe 500,000 up to nearly 10 million people.
No, that's a huge range.
It is. Then came the European chapter, which brought massive shifts. This is roughly 1513 up to 1765.
Okay.
Spanish Florida, chartered in 1513, that was the first European colony in the continental U.S.
Right, St. Augustine.
Exactly. St. Augustine founded in 1565 as the first permanent town.
Yeah.
But we also saw French, Dutch settlements, New Netherland in 1626, and Swedish ones, like New Sweden in 1638.
But the British presence became dominant, didn't it?
That's where the British really began to make their mark, yeah. You have Virginia in 1607, Plymouth in 1620, and importantly, through documents like the Mayflower Compact and the Fundamental Orders of Connecticut, they started setting these critical precedents for self-governance.
Which was pretty unique for the time.
Very unique. It sounds like the seeds of, maybe American exceptionalism were planted quite early.
But of course, this period also involved very complex and frankly often tragic relations with Native Americans.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, while there was trade, there were also terrible conflicts, forced conversions, and Most devastatingly, the catastrophic impact of the Columbia Exchange.
Right, the transfer of diseases.
Diseases, plants, animals between the old and new worlds. It tragically decimated indigenous populations who had no immunity to European diseases.
Just awful.
And we can't forget, this era also marked the establishment of the Atlantic slave trade, which fundamentally shaped the emerging 13 colonies.
With that backdrop, then, the stage was really set for revolution. What were the key triggers? This is around 1765 onwards.
Yeah, the primary trigger was Britain asserting greater control, especially after the French and Indian War. That, coupled with colonial grievances over taxation without representation.
The classic line.
Exactly. This led to key events like the First Continental Congress in 74, and then the battles of Lexington and Concord in 75, which really ignited the Revolutionary War.
And the Declaration of Independence.
Adopted July 4th, 1776. It was revolutionary for its time, enshrining these core values: liberty, individual rights, popular sovereignty, republicanism, civic virtue, heavily influenced, by classical, Renaissance, and Enlightenment philosophies.
So after the war, they win their independence. What was the biggest hurdle in actually forming a functioning nation?
Oh, the biggest challenge was uniting these newly independent states. The first attempt, the Articles of Confederation.
Right, 1781 to 8.
Yeah. It created a very weak central government. It quickly became clear they needed something stronger.
Which led to the Constitution.
Right, the U.S. Constitution in 1789. This established a federal republic, 3 separate branches, checks and balances. A revolutionary concept then, and one that's been adopted globally since.
And George Washington's role.
Crucial. As the first president, he set the precedent for the peaceful transfer of power. And then the Bill of Rights, adopted in 1791, further solidified individual freedoms.
So from that founding, the U.S. entered this period of rapid westward expansion, often driven by the idea of manifest destiny. What does that really mean?
Yeah, manifest destiny. It was this belief, really widespread in the 19th century, that it was America's, divinely ordained right, even a duty, some thought, to expand its dominion and spread democracy across the whole North American continent.
And that belief fueled massive land grabs.
Oh, absolutely. Huge territorial acquisitions. The Louisiana Purchase in 1803, that nearly doubled the country's size practically overnight.
Right.
Then came Florida in 1819, the annexation of Texas in 1845, the Oregon Treaty in 46, and the Mexican Cession in 1848, which added vast lands, including California.
That's an incredible amount of land. But this expansion wasn't exactly peaceful or without, its darker side.
Far from it. This period also saw these escalating conflicts over slavery. The North was largely abolishing it.
Well, the South.
The South was strengthening its reliance on it, especially after the invention of the cotton gin made cotton production so profitable.
Right.
Attempts to balance slave and free states, like the Missouri Compromise of 1820, they were ultimately just temporary fixes.
And the impact on Native Americans during this expansion.
Tragic. The expansion often came at a severe cost to Native American populations. The Indian Removal Act of 1830.
The Trail of Tears.
Exactly. It led to the forced displacement of an estimated 60,000 Native Americans. Thousands died. And then the California Genocide, following the Gold Rush, also caused thousands of Native American deaths right up into the mid-1870s.
It's just devastating. And all of that tension, particularly over slavery, led directly to the ultimate internal conflict, the American Civil War.
Yes. The tensions were just ratcheted up by legislative acts like the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 54.
And court decisions, too.
Right. The Dred Scott decision in 1857 was huge. These all culminated in the Civil War, 1861 to 1865. 11 states seceded to form the Confederacy.
But the Union won.
The Union victory was pivotal. It led to the national abolition of slavery, formally marked by Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation in 1863.
So after that immense upheaval, what came next? We're talking, 1863 to 1917 now?
That was a period of really intense transformation. You had Reconstruction, the Gilded Age, and the Progressive Era all kind of overlapping.
Okay, Reconstruction first.
Reconstruction saw the ratification of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. These were designed to protect civil rights, and they allowed African Americans to take active political roles in the former Confederate states for a time.
And it was also an era of huge growth.
It's immense growth, yeah. Driven by national infrastructure, projects the transcontinental telegraph, Railroads plus the Homestead Acts, which basically gave away nearly 10% of U.S. land.
And a huge wave of immigration, if I recall correctly.
Absolutely, an unprecedented wave. Over 24 million Europeans arrived between 1865 and 1917.
Wow.
And alongside that, you had the Great Migration of African Americans moving from the rural South to northern cities.
But the progress of Reconstruction didn't last.
Tragically, no. The gains were really curtailed with the Compromise of 1877. That basically ended Reconstruction and led to a period of heightened racism, the entrenchment of Jim Crow laws, and redlining, which systematically marginalized African Americans for decades.
So rapid economic expansion, but also deepening social problems.
Precisely. Technological advancements and cheap labor fueled immense wealth for industrialists, the Gilded Age, right?
Right.
But it also led to increased inequality and social unrest. This imbalance ultimately paved the way for the reforms of the Progressive Era.
And externally, the U.S. was still expanding.
It was. Annexing Hawaii, Puerto Rico, the Philippines, Guam in 1898, American Samoa in 1900, and the U.S. Virgin Islands in 1917.
Okay, that brings us right into the 20th century, a period of global wars, profound internal change, 1917 to 1945.
Yeah, the U.S. entry into World War I in 1917 significantly helped turn the tide for the Allies. Domestically, a huge step. Women gained nationwide suffrage in 1920. Monumental.
Absolutely.
The 1920s and 30s also saw radio and early television just revolutionize communication, fundamentally changing American life.
But then the crash.
Then the Wall Street crash of 1929, triggering the Great Depression. Devastating.
And that's when Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal came into play, right, to combat the Depression.
Yes, the New Deal was this sweeping series of recovery programs, financial reforms. It really reshaped the role of government in American society.
And World War II.
While the U.S. initially stayed neutral, but it began supplying the Allies in 1941. Then, December 1941, Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor brought the U.S. fully into the war.
And the war ended with?
The war culminated with the U.S. developing and using the first nuclear weapons on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, August 1945.
An act that changed the world.
Profoundly shaped the post-war world, yeah. And it left the U.S. as a major economic and political superpower.
And that new superpower status really set the stage for the next era, the Cold War, massive social shifts, 1945 to 1991.
Indeed. The U.S. and the Soviet Union emerged as rival superpowers. This led to a global policy of containment.
And the space race.
And the iconic space race, yeah. Culminating that historic first crewed moon landing in 1969.
Amazing. And domestically.
Domestically, alongside significant economic growth and urbanization, the U.S. underwent the transformative civil rights movement, led by figures like Martin Luther King Jr., and you had President Lyndon B. Johnson's Great Society programs aiming to address institutional racism.
So it sounds like a time of both intense external tension and really significant internal reckoning.
Absolutely. The counterculture movement also emerged then. Big shifts in attitudes towards things like drug use, sexuality, and widespread opposition to the Vietnam War, which ultimately led to the end of conscription in 1973.
And women's roles were changing too.
Significantly. The 1970s saw a huge increase in female labor participation, further reshaping society.
And the Cold War ended.
With the collapse of the Soviet Union from 1989 to 1991, that left the U.S. as the world's sole superpower, cementing that idea of the American century.
Which brings us right up to the contemporary era, from 1991 to the present. The 1990s were quite a decade for the U.S., weren't they? Economically, technologically?
They certainly were. The 90s saw the longest recorded economic expansion in American history, also a dramatic decline in U.S. crime rates, and just incredible technological innovation.
Like what?
Think about it. The World Wide Web really took off. The Pentium processor, lithium-ion batteries, huge advances in gene therapy, cloning, the Human Genome Project.
Wow.
NASDAQ even became the first stock market to trade online in 1998, a sign of things to come.
And military interventions continued to shape its foreign policy during this time.
Yes, the U.S. led the Gulf War in 1991, then launched the War on Terror after the September 11th attacks in 2001.
Leading to Afghanistan and Iraq?
Right. More recently, the U.S. housing bubble burst, culminating in the Great Recession around 2007.
And the last decade or so?
Well, the 2010s and early 2020s have seen increased political polarization and what some scholars refer to as democratic backsliding.
Including the January 2021 Capitol attack.
Yes, and recent foreign policy has involved complex developments regarding Ukraine, including shifts in military aid and intelligence sharing under different administrations.
Okay, So if we try to connect all this history,
If we connect all this to the bigger picture, you can really see this continuous thread of expansion and adaptation. But it's punctuated by these periods of profound internal change and external influence. It's constantly reshaping the nation.
a story of constant flux, as you said.
Ex-
Okay, that's a lot to take in about how the U.S. governs itself, especially with all those layers of power. It really underlines the complexity. Now, let's look at the immense scale of the nation built upon that history, starting with its geography. It's huge, right?
Geographically, the United States is truly vast. It's the world's third largest country by total area. That's nearly 3.8 million square miles.
Third largest.
Okay, to put that in perspective, the total area includes coastal and territorial waters. But its land area alone still ranks as the third largest globally.
Got it. And the landscapes must be incredibly varied.
Oh, unbelievably diverse. You go from the Atlantic coastal plain through the rolling Piedmont and the Appalachian Mountains, then you hit the Great Lakes, the vast grasslands of the Midwest, all traversed by the Mississippi River system, which is the world's fourth longest river system.
I can picture those sweeping landscapes. What about out west? That's dramatic territory.
Out west, you find the majestic Rocky Mountains. Denali in Alaska is the highest peak in North America, over 20,000 feet. You've also got the Yellowstone caldera, the continent's largest volcanic feature, plus the arid Great Basin, the Chihuahuan, Sonoran, and Mojave deserts,
And the Grand Canyon, of course.
and the iconic Grand Canyon. And here's a truly unique geographic fact.
Yeah.
The lowest and highest points in the contiguous U.S.,
Yeah.
both in California, incredibly, just 84 miles apart.
No way. That's amazing.
It is. And we can't forget Hawaii either, a volcanic archipelago, Polynesian roots, entirely outside mainland North America.
That incredible size and diversity must extend to its climate and biodiversity, too.
It absolutely does. The U.S. encompasses pretty much most climate types you find on Earth.
Really?
Yeah, from humid continental up north to tropical in Hawaii and Florida, alpine climates in the mountains, arid conditions in the southwest, and it experiences more high-impact extreme weather incidents than any other country.
Like hurricanes and tornadoes.
Exactly. States bordering the Gulf of Mexico are prone to hurricanes, and most of the world's tornadoes occur in what's known as Tornado Alley in the Midwest.
And how has climate change impacted that? Is that noticeable?
Yes, climate change has definitely increased the frequency of extreme weather. They've seen 3 times more heat waves now than back in the 1960s, and severe droughts are becoming more common, especially in the Southwest.
And biologically, is it very diverse?
Hugely diverse. The U.S. is actually one of only 17 designated megadiverse countries in the world.
Megadiverse, okay.
It means it has a really high number of species, roughly 17,000 vascular plant species in the contiguous states and Alaska, plus over 1,800 flowering plants just in Hawaii, many unique to the islands.
And animals.
A wide array of animal species, too, including, famously, the bald eagle.
Right, the national bird.
And there's a massive conservation effort. The U.S. has 63 national parks, and about 28% of its land is federally managed, thanks to big initiatives like the Wilderness Act of 1964 and the Endangered Species Act of 73.
So, with such a vast and diverse land, how is this nation actually governed? What's the structure?
Okay, the U.S. government is a federal republic. It consists of 50 states, plus Washington, D.C., the capital district, and 5 major unincorporated territories.
And it's old.
It's the world's oldest surviving federation, actually. And its presidential system has been widely adopted or adapted globally.
Based on the Constitution.
The U.S. Constitution is the supreme legal document, yeah. It forms a liberal democracy. Though it's worth noting, some scholars, looking at the influence of wealth and elite groups, have described it more as an oligarchy or even a plutocracy.
Interesting debate. So how does that system actually work in practice, the 3 branches?
Right. The national government, headquartered in Washington, D.C., has 3 distinct branches, designed with that system of checks and balances.
Okay, first branch.
The legislative branch is Congress. It's bicameral, meaning 2 chambers.
The Senate and the House.
Exactly. The Senate has 100 members, 2 from each state, serving 6-year staggered terms. The House of Representatives has 435 members, based on state population, and they serve 2-year terms.
And their job.
Congress makes federal law, declares war, approves treaties, and holds impeachment powers.
Okay. And the executive branch. That's the president, right?
Yes. The executive branch is led by the president. They're the head of state, commander-in-chief of the military, and the chief executive.
What powers do they have?
The president holds veto power over legislation, though Congress can override that with a 2/3 vote in both chambers. They appoint cabinet members, federal judges
With Senate approval.
with Senate approval, yes.
Yeah.
And they issue executive orders. Presidents are elected via the U.S. Electoral College for a 4-year term and can be reelected only once.
And currently.
Currently, Donald Trump is president and J.D. Vance is vice president.
Okay. And the third branch, the courts.
The judicial branch, the federal judiciary. Its judges are appointed for life by the president, again, with Senate approval.
For life. Wow.
Yes. It includes U.S. district courts, U.S. courts of appeals, and at the top, the Supreme Court.
How many on the Supreme Court?
9 members, led by the Chief Justice, currently John Roberts. The Supreme Court interprets laws and can overturn those it finds unconstitutional.
Do they hear many cases?
They're actually very selective. They typically grant review to only about 80 petitions out of maybe 7,000 filed each year.
Got it. And then below the national level, how does the governance structure cascade down?
Below the national level, you have the states, which have significant powers. Then counties, municipalities, cities, and towns. Each layer typically has its own elected representatives.
And you mentioned Indian country earlier.
Yes, a unique aspect is Indian country. It comprises 574 federally recognized tribes and 326 reservations. These tribes are recognized as domestic dependent nations with inherent tribal sovereignty. It adds another complex layer to the governmental landscape.
Politically, the U.S. is often just described as a two-party system. Is that fair?
It's accurate in practice, yeah. It operates as a de facto two-party system, dominated by the Democratic and Republican parties. It makes it very hard for third parties to gain traction nationally.
And on the global stage, foreign relations.
Very extensive. The U.S. boasts the world's second-largest diplomatic corps. It's a permanent member of the UN Security Council and even hosts the UN headquarters in New York.
And part of major groups.
Yes, member of the G7, G20, OECD.
And its alliances are pretty well known globally, like NATO.
Indeed. The U.S. maintains special relationships, as they're sometimes called, with allies like the UK, Canada, Japan, South Korea, Israel, and it works closely with NATO allies.
How about relations with China or Ukraine recently?
Well, ties with China have steadily deteriorated over recent years. Regarding Ukraine, U.S. policy involves significant military aid and intelligence sharing after the 2022 invasion, though recent developments have seen changes in debates around the levels of that support.
And its military. You mentioned the president is commander-in-chief?
Yes. The Department of Defense, headquartered at the Pentagon, administers 5 service branches: Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, and Space Force.
And the scale of that military is just staggering, isn't it? The spending.
It truly is. The spending budget was nearly $1 trillion in 2024. That's a staggering 37% of total global military spending.
37%.
Yeah, and it possesses about 42% of the world's nuclear weapons, second only to Russia. The U.S. military is widely regarded as the most powerful and technologically advanced in the world.
And it has a global presence.
Huge global presence, over 800 bases worldwide, deployments in 25 foreign countries. And historically, it's engaged in over 400 military interventions since 1776.
Wow. Do states have forces too?
Yes, states have state defense forces and National Guard units, which can be federalized.
That's a comprehensive overview of its military might. What about law enforcement and criminal justice within the U.S.?
Okay, law enforcement is quite decentralized. There are around 18,000 U.S. police agencies. They range from local city police and county sheriffs up to state police and national agencies like the FBI and U.S. Marshal Service.
And the prison system.
The prison system is notably heterogeneous federal, state, local, tribal facilities. It holds nearly 2 million people.
2 million.
Yeah, which gives the U.S. the world's largest total prison population. And in 2023, it had the 6th highest per capita incarceration rate globally at 531 per 100,000 people.
That's very high.
It is. Additionally, U.S. homicide rates are significantly higher than other high-income countries, and that difference is largely driven by gun homicides.
Okay. This brings us to a really fascinating paradox, I think. This picture of immense wealth and innovation alongside profound social challenges. What stands out to you about the U.S. economic landscape?
Well, the U.S. economy is a highly developed, mixed economy, and it has been the world's largest nominally, meaning not adjusted for purchasing power, since around 1890. It accounts for over 25% of nominal global economic output.
A quarter of the world's economy.
Nominally, yes. Its estimated nominal GDP for 2025 is over $30 trillion, ranking it first globally. It's second when adjusted for purchasing power parity, PPP, and ninth in PPP-adjusted GDP per capita.
And the dollar is key.
U.S. dollar is the world's foremost reserve currency.
Yeah.
It's used in most international transactions, which gives the U.S. significant economic leverage.
And a huge number of global companies called the U.S. home, right?
Exactly. More than 136, I think, of the world's 500 largest companies by revenue are headquartered in the U.S. That's the highest number globally.
Financial centers.
New York City is widely considered the world's principal financial center. It houses the New York Stock Exchange, NYSE, and NASDAQ, the world's two largest stock exchanges by market cap.
And technology and innovation.
The U.S. consistently leads in technological advancement and innovation across many fields. Think AI, electronics, pharmaceuticals, aerospace, military equipment.
Trade.
It's the largest importer of goods and services and the second largest exporter. But it's by far the largest exporter of services.
And incomes, how do they compare?
Americans have the highest average household and employee income among OECD members, and the fourth highest median household income in 2023.
And wealth concentration, billionaires.
In 2023, the U.S. also had the highest number of dollar billionaires, 735 of them. And most millionaires, too, nearly 22 million.
So on one hand, incredible wealth, innovation, high average incomes. But what's the other side of that coin? You mentioned inequality earlier.
That's where the paradox truly hits you, yeah. In 2011, data showed the richest 10% of adults owned 72% of the country's household wealth.
72% for the top 10.
Yes. While the bottom 50% of adults owned just 2%.
Wow, that's stark.
It is. And this wealth inequality has substantially increased since the late 1980s. Income inequality also reached a record high in 2019, making the U.S. distribution one of the widest among OECD countries.
So what does that really highlight?
Well, these numbers really highlight not just a divide, but a fundamental tension maybe in the American system. How the same sources that seem to drive unprecedented innovation and wealth creation also seem to exacerbate these disparities.
And it seems the social safety net might be a factor there compared to other rich nations.
It is often cited as a factor, yes. The U.S. generally has a smaller welfare state and redistributes less income through government action, taxes, and benefits than most other high-income countries.
Things like paid leave.
Right. It's the only advanced economy that doesn't nationally guarantee paid vacation time for workers. And it's one of the few developed nations without a federal paid family leave program.
And low-income work.
There's also a high percentage of low-income workers compared to other OECD nations. This is often attributed to weaker collective bargaining rights for unions and less government support for wages compared to some European countries.
And how does this manifest in terms of poverty or hardship?
Well, the impact is seen in the statistics. The source noted over 770,000 people were homeless in 2024. 6.4 million children experienced food insecurity in 2022. That's about 1 in 5 kids. And nearly 38 million people, or 11.5% of the population, live below the poverty line in 2022.
That's a sobering contrast to the wealth figures. Okay, switching gears slightly, let's talk about science and technology. The U.S. has such a pioneering history there.
It really does. The U.S. has been a leader in technological innovation since the late 19th century, pioneering methods for interchangeable parts, mass production, think Henry Ford, and the assembly line.
And today, still a leader.
It remains a foremost scientific power. Yes, it has the highest R&D expenditures globally by a large margin, and it ranked third in the Global Innovation Index in both 2023 and 2024.
Specific areas. AI.
The U.S. is considered the leading country in artificial intelligence development currently, and overall it was ranked the second most technologically advanced country in 2023, just after South Korea.
And of course, its spaceflight achievements through NASA are legendary. We mentioned the moon landing.
Absolutely. From the Apollo program's first crewed moon landing in '69 to the Space Shuttle program, the Voyager probes, exploring the outer solar system, the Hubble, and now James Webb Space Telescope.
Mars exploration, too.
Right, the Mars exploration program with all the rovers.
Yeah.
While NASA remains a beacon of public science, it's notable that the private sector companies like SpaceX, Blue Origin, now significantly dominates commercial spaceflight in the U.S.
Interesting shift. What about energy? Where does U.S. energy come from?
Okay, energy. About 84% came from fossil fuels in 2023. Petroleum, so oil, was the largest source at 38%, followed closely by natural gas at 36%. Coal has declined, but is still part of the mix.
And consumption levels.
The U.S. consumes a disproportionate amount of global energy, around 16% of the world's total energy, with only about 4% of the world's population.
And emissions.
Consequently, it's the second highest emitter of greenhouse gases, historically and currently, after China.
Any movement towards alternatives? Nuclear?
Yes. The U.S. is actually the world's largest producer of nuclear power. It has the highest number of operating reactors globally, and the government has stated plans to potentially triple its nuclear capacity by 2050 as part of climate goals.
Okay. Then finally, in this section, transportation. The U.S. seems built around the car, but it must have a massive overall network.
It truly has the world's longest road network. We're talking 4 million miles of roads dominated by the interstate highway system.
4 million miles.
Yeah. And vehicle ownership is incredibly high, 850 vehicles per 1,000 people in 2022. And maybe unsurprisingly, 76% of commuters drive alone to work.
What about public transport?
Public transportation is pretty well developed in some major cities.
Yeah.
New York, San Francisco, D.C., Boston, Chicago have extensive systems, but it's generally much less extensive elsewhere compared to Europe or parts of Asia.
Air travel.
Huge. Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport has been the world's busiest by passenger traffic for years, over 75 million passengers in 2021 alone. And 16 of the 50 busiest airports globally are in the U.S.
And rail. Is that big?
The U.S. actually has the longest rail network in the world, over 182,000 miles. But it primarily handles freight, not passengers, outside of certain corridors like the Northeast.
Waterways and ports.
Its inland waterways are the world's 5th longest, very important for cargo, and it hosts 4 of the 50 busiest container ports globally.
Okay. Now let's turn to the vibrant heart of the U.S., its people and its culture. When you look at the sheer diversity, what truly stands out about the American cultural mosaic?
Well, what immediately jumps out is just the sheer scale of its diversity and its ongoing population growth. The U.S. is the 3rd most populous country in the world.
Around 340 million now.
Estimated at 340.1 million in 2024, yeah. And it's growing by about 5,400 people per day through births and immigration.
Wow. And the diversity.
Incredibly varied. The source mentioned 37 distinct ancestry groups having over 1 million members each.
37 groups over a million.
Okay.
And racial and ethnic composition.
Also diverse. The 2020 census showed white, about 57.8%, Hispanic or Latino, which could be of any race, 18.7%, African American or Black, 12.1%, Asian American, 5.9%, and Native American or Alaska Native, about 1%, with others identifying as multiracial.
And language plays a big role in that diversity, despite English being dominant.
Absolutely. While English is the most commonly spoken language, and an executive order in 2025 actually declared it the official language of the U.S. federal government.
Though that's recent.
Yes. But there are still 169 Native American languages spoken across the country. And some states and territories officially recognize indigenous languages like Hawaiian in Hawaii or Spanish having official status alongside English in Puerto Rico.
And Spanish is widely spoken on the mainland, too.
It's the 2nd most commonly used language overall, yeah. Over 41 million speakers recorded back in 2020.
Given that diversity, immigration must be a huge factor in the U.S. story, and religion, too.
It's massive. The U.S. has, by far, the world's largest immigrant population.
How large?
Nearly 88 million people in 2022 were immigrants, or their U.S.-born children. That's almost 27% of the total population with recent immigrant roots.
27%. Where do most immigrants come from?
Top countries of origin recently have been Mexico, India, and China. And in 2024, the U.S. resettled over 100,000 refugees, cementing its role as the top global resettlement destination that year.
And religion, how does that fit in?
Well, the First Amendment to the Constitution guarantees the free exercise of religion and prohibits the government from establishing a religion.
Separation of church and state.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
This has led to a widespread and incredibly diverse religious landscape. The U.S. actually has the world's largest Christian population in total numbers, including the 4th largest population of Roman Catholics globally.
Is practice uniform across the country?
Not at all. Religious practice varies a lot regionally. You have the Bible Belt in the South, known for high rates of Protestant church attendance, contrasting with places like New England, which are generally more secular. And Mormonism is predominant in Utah and surrounding areas.
Okay. And how has urbanization shaped where people live and maybe impacted health and education?
About 82% of Americans now live in urban areas, and that includes suburbs. The fastest growth recently has been in the South and West.
Big cities.
4 cities now have over 2 million residents: New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago, and Houston.
And health outcomes. How does the U.S. fare?
It's a mixed picture. Average American life expectancy was 78.4 years in 2023. But the U.S. has actually lagged behind other wealthy nations in life expectancy gains since around 1998. It has notably high rates of obesity and, sadly, suicide compared to peer nations.
And the healthcare system itself.
The U.S. healthcare system consistently outspends others per capita and as a percentage of GDP, but it often achieves worse health outcomes on key metrics. And it notably lacks universal healthcare coverage, though government programs like Medicaid for low-income individuals and Medicare for seniors do exist and cover millions.
Okay. And in terms of education?
American primary and secondary education K through 12 is largely decentralized. It's run mostly by local school districts with state oversight.
Spending.
The U.S. actually spends more per student on education than any other country in the OECD.
Higher education, universities.
The U.S. has produced the most Nobel Prize winners for 11 awards mentioned in the source. And it's home to many of the world's top-ranked universities. Harvard, Stanford, MIT, you know the names.
But challenges exist there too.
Yes. A major challenge is student loan debt, which has ballooned in recent decades, exceeding $1.7 trillion in 2022. That's a huge burden for many graduates.
Okay, zooming out a bit, what are the core tenets, maybe, that define broader American culture and society? It seems so varied.
It's a truly vibrant mosaic, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
characterized by a wide variety of ethnic groups, traditions, values. You often hear about certain traits being prominent.
Yeah.
Individualism, personal autonomy, a strong work ethic, competitiveness.
Right.
Yet, alongside that, there's also a strong tradition of voluntary altruism. The U.S. donated 1.44% of its GDP to charity in 2016, which was the highest rate in the world.
Interesting combination. And the American dream, still relevant.
The American dream, the idea that hard work can lead to prosperity and upward mobility, remains a powerful motivator for immigrants and many Americans, though its accuracy and accessibility are subjects of ongoing societal debate, especially given the inequality we discussed.
And that idea of the melting pot versus maybe a salad bowl, what's the difference there in how people view cultural integration?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. The melting pot suggests a blending of different cultures into a new, unified American identity. Everyone becomes American.
Assimilation.
Right. Whereas the salad bowl perspective emphasizes that distinct cultures coexist and contribute to the whole nation while still maintaining their unique flavors, their unique identities. It's an ongoing discussion about assimilation versus cultural preservation or multiculturalism.
And free speech protections are notably strong.
Exceptionally strong, yes, under the First Amendment. This protection extends even to forms of speech that are restricted in many other democracies, including things like flag desecration, certain types of hate speech, blasphemy, and lèse majesty, insulting the head of state.
And social progressiveness, LGBT rights.
The U.S. is generally considered socially progressive in many areas compared to global averages, and it boasts some of the most advanced LGBT rights protections in the world, although this varies somewhat by state and faces ongoing political debate.
Okay. And finally, we really can't talk about American culture without mentioning its profound impact on global cultural exports. I mean, where do you even begin with that?
It's hard to pick just one area, isn't it? In literature, you go from colonial writings influenced by Enlightenment thinkers through the American Renaissance, Hawthorne, Melville, Whitman, Dickinson.
Classics.
Right, to later movements like the Harlem Renaissance, which brought distinct African-American traditions to the forefront, the Beat Generation, and now contemporary pluralism. 12 Americans have won the Nobel Prize in literature.
Mass media, news, internet.
Mass media is broadly uncensored. You have the major broadcasters, NBC, CBS, ABC, FOX, and prominent national newspapers like the Wall Street Journal and New York Times. And interestingly, the top 5 most popular websites globally are all American-owned.
And gaming.
The U.S. has the world's largest video game market by revenue and is a top location for video game development. Huge cultural force.
How about performing arts? Theater.
American theater is renowned globally, with Broadway in New York City as its central hub. And the U.S. developed distinct theatrical forms like Tom shows, based on Uncle Tom's Cabin, and historically minstrel shows, which are now obviously viewed very critically.
Visual arts, painting, sculpture.
From early American folk art through movements like the Hudson River School capturing landscapes, abstract expressionism with Jackson Pollock, pop art with Andy Warhol, American artists have left an indelible mark. The Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York is the largest art museum in the U.S.
And music. American music is everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. It's this rich tapestry of genres, heavily influenced by African-American musical traditions. American inventions like the electric guitar and the synthesizer revolutionized popular music worldwide.
So many genres originated there.
Jazz, country, blues, R&B, rock and roll, soul, funk, punk, disco, hip-hop. They all originated primarily in the U.S. It's the world's largest music market and has produced global pop superstars from Elvis Presley and Michael Jackson to, Taylor Swift today.
And of course, fashion, cinema, food, and sports round it out.
Yes, fashion is a huge industry. The U.S. has the world's largest apparel market, and New York City is one of the big four global fashion capitals, alongside Paris, London, and Milan.
Cinema, Hollywood.
Hollywood is basically synonymous with global filmmaking. Major studios, huge blockbusters, events like the Academy Awards, the Oscars, have massive international reach.
And American food, is there a distinct cuisine?
There is a distinctive American cuisine, yeah. It blends Native American foods, corn, turkey, potatoes, squash, with traditions brought by waves of immigrants. Think Thanksgiving dinner, but also things like hamburgers, hot dogs, American-style pizza. Barbecue, definitely. The U.S. is home to prestigious culinary schools, a massive restaurant industry, and, of course, American fast food chains are globally ubiquitous.
Right.
And it's the world's fourth largest wine-producing country, mainly from California.
And finally, sports. Huge part of the culture.
Massive. American football is easily the most popular spectator sport domestically. Baseball is still often called the national sport, or national pastime.
And sports invented there.
American inventions like basketball, volleyball, skateboarding, and snowboarding are now globally popular Olympic sports.
And the Olympics themselves.
The U.S. has hosted 8 Olympic Games, summer and winter combined. The first one outside Europe was actually in St. Louis in 1904. And U.S. athletes have won the most Olympic medals, summer and winter, of any country.
Soccer, too. Football.
Yeah, soccer's grown immensely. The U.S. has hosted and co-hosted multiple FIFA World Cups, including the record-setting 1999 FIFA Women's World Cup, which was a huge moment for women's sports globally.
What an incredible journey we've taken today. I mean, from its earliest documented name right up to its pervasive global impact today, this deep dive has truly revealed the remarkable scope and, well, multifaceted influence of the United States. Across its history, its geography, governance, economy, and culture, it's clearly a nation of incredible innovation and immense diversity, constantly evolving.
Yet, as we've seen throughout this discussion, it's also a nation grappling with stark contradictions and significant ongoing challenges. This deep dive, I think, has shown us not just a collection of facts, but really a dynamic story of a nation in constant transformation. And this perhaps raises an important question for you, the listener. In a world where global interconnectedness means every nation's story impacts our own, what does this evolving story of the United States mean for your understanding of the global landscape? And how might its ongoing transformations shape the future for us all?
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.